The story begins in a quiet, rustic village in Korea. A car pulls up in front of an old building, and a man leans out, asking his friend, "So, is this the store your grandfather used to run?" It's got that nice, nostalgic vibe. His masked friend, who is none other than Korea's most famous chef, gives a small nod, puzzled. "Wait, are you seriously planning to open a restaurant here?" The masked man gets out of the car, scanning his surroundings cautiously. "Check the area one more time," he says. "I'm worried the paparazzi might have followed us." His friend just laughs, shaking his head. "Dude, we're deep in the countryside. No one's gonna chase you all the way out here. You can relax." After a moment's hesitation, the masked man finally pulls off his disguise, revealing his face. And it's none other than Lee Kang-han, the celebrity chef everyone in Korea knows. Kang-han is not just any chef. He's a graduate of the world-renowned Culinary Institute of America. But don't mix it up with the CIA that deals in espionage. After winning the Paris International Cooking Competition, he became a household name. His skills in the kitchen, paired with his good looks, made him a popular guest on TV shows. But fame came with its downsides. Over time, he started burning out from overwork, and his fans became too much. Some would barge into his restaurant for selfies, and on one particularly stressful day, Kang-han had enough. Channeling his inner Gordon Ramsay, he kicked them out, which didn't go down well with his colleagues. "Maybe you should have joined a K-pop boy band if you wanted so much attention." But the pressure didn't end there. Online trolls began to claim that he was only popular for his looks, with some calling his food mediocre. They even criticized him as rude for shouting at fans. It all became too much. Exhausted by the relentless spotlight, Kang-han fell into depression. That's when he decided to escape. To the quiet village where his grandfather once ran a small store, far from the chaos of city life. When his friend asks him if he's really sure about opening a restaurant here, Kang-han sighs. "I'm not here to launch some fancy restaurant," he replies. "I just need a break." His friend chuckles. "Opening a restaurant sounds like a lot of work for someone who's supposed to be resting." But Kang-han smiles faintly. "For me, cooking is my way of resting." After unpacking his things, his friend suggests grabbing a bite to eat. They find a local restaurant, but the moment Kang-han takes a bite of the soggy noodles soaked in bland sauce, he grimaces. What even is this? Glaring at the dish. His inner food critic almost takes over and he's ready to storm into the kitchen, but his friend quickly stops him. "Chill, this is the countryside. You can't expect city standards here." But that offhand comment hits Kang-han harder than it should have. It reminds him of a harsh reality he's been trying to ignore. He can't taste food anymore. After consulting a doctor, he learned that his sense of taste was dulled due to stress. No medication could fix it. The only solution? Rest and relaxation. A few days later, he decides to go camping in the mountains, hoping the fresh air will help. As he's being driven there, the cab driver jokes, "You look like you're dressed for a beach day, not a mountain hike." That comment makes Kang-han chuckle a bit, but then he remembers something. His grandfather's old village, Pyong. On a whim, he asks the driver to make a detour. It's his first time visiting since his grandfather passed away. The moment he sees the old store, he feels a wave of nostalgia and decides to clean it up. But as he approaches the storeroom, he notices the door slightly open. Did someone break in? He wonders, gripping his shiny stainless steel camping bag, trying to psych himself up. He steps inside cautiously, his heart racing. Suddenly, something darts past him, and he almost jumps out of his skin. But it's just a house cat. Trying to regain his composure, Kang-han mutters, "It's just a cat. Calm down." Venturing deeper into the dim storeroom, he gropes around for the light switch. But as he walks further, he feels like the room is expanding unnaturally. Just as he starts to panic, tiny sparks of light begin to flicker around him. He's no longer in his grandfather's old storeroom. He's somewhere else entirely. The ground beneath him starts to crumble, and before he can react, he's falling, plummeting through a swirling void. When he finally opens his eyes, he finds himself lying on the ground in a strange, lush forest. A small, unfamiliar creature is licking his hand. Blinking in confusion, Kang Han stares at it. Kang Han immediately freaks out. The strange squirrel that had been licking his hand is still there, looking at him curiously. Kang Han notices that the squirrel's ears are unusually large, but then, to his amazement, it begins flapping those huge ears and flies away. Bewildered, Kang Han realizes that this is no ordinary squirrel. It's like something out of a Pokemon game. Just then, he hears rustling in the bushes behind him and panics again, only to find a rabbit emerging. But this is no ordinary rabbit either. It's a buff, muscular rabbit that looks like it's never missed a single day at the gym. Kang Han thinks to himself that even the forest lions probably wouldn't dare to mess with this gigashad rabbit. The rabbit hops away as if it's just finished a workout, and Kang Han realizes he needs to escape before encountering something even more dangerous. He frantically searches for a way out, but night falls, and he still hasn't found an exit. Kang Han recalls the doctor's advice to relax by going camping and silently curses him. Just then, his stomach growls with hunger. Kang Han starts a small fire and decides to cook with the few ingredients he has left: dried fish, salt, pepper, and some beef stock. He isn't thrilled about his limited options, but he cooks the meal anyway, pouring the beef stock over the dried fish and adjusting the taste with salt and pepper. Although the meal isn't great, at least it's edible. However, as expected, he can't taste it due to his condition. Frustrated, he tosses the pan aside and curses his fate. Suddenly, he hears another rustling in the bushes and sees a pair of eyes gleaming in the dark. Fearing it might be a wolf, he grabs his pocket knife, not that it'll help much, but he points it toward the dark, bracing himself. He screams, anticipating an attack, but nothing happens. When he opens his eyes, there's no sign of a wolf. Instead, he hears a noise behind him and turns to find a small white pup devouring the leftovers in his pan. The pup has cleaned the pan and wags its tail excitedly as it looks up at him. Kang Han is completely confused by the creature. At first, he thinks it's a small breed of dog. The puppy approaches him, and he wonders where it came from. Kang Han, who's not particularly fond of dogs, tells it to leave, muttering that he doesn't understand why people find dogs so cute. Yet, as he complains, he reaches out and ruffles the puppy's fur. But as he looks closer, he notices the pup's sharp claws and realizes it isn't a dog, it's a wolf cub. He panics, wondering where the mother wolf is, fearing the large black wolf he saw earlier might be nearby. He imagines the mother finding her cub with a human and shudders at the thought of the outcome. Terrified, he lies down on the ground, thinking that if starvation doesn't kill him, the wolf surely will. Suddenly, the wolf cub grabs onto his shirt and starts dragging him. Kang Han wonders if it's trying to eat him now. Instead, the cub pulls him toward a hollow tree, emitting a faint purple glow. Kang Han realizes it's the same portal he saw before he arrived in this strange world. He wonders if it might lead him back home, but hesitates, thinking it might actually be a passage to somewhere worse. Still, he decides to take a closer look and pokes his head in. At that moment, the wolf cub sees its chance, struts up to him, and headbutts him in the backside, sending him tumbling into the portal. Kang Han screams, cursing the cub in his mind. But to his immense relief, he soon finds himself back outside the storehouse. Tears of relief fill his eyes as he realizes he survived. He thinks about the cub and feels a sense of gratitude, deciding he'll never forget the debt he owes it. But as he's thinking this, he notices the cub is right there beside him, wagging its tail. Left with no choice, he brings it home with him. First, he gives the pup a bath, but it turns into a little whirlwind, spinning around and splashing water everywhere. After drying it off, Kang Han starts thinking of names, looking over a list that includes white rice, white sugar, and similar choices. I think naming its vanilla ice cream might be better than those dull names. That night, he falls asleep with the wolf pup by his side and has one of the best rests he's had in a long time. In the morning, Kang Han stretches and realizes how refreshing his sleep was. Whom he has named White Rice tries to feed his wolf pup with various foods, but White Rice refuses all of it. Kang Han tries dog food, cat food, and even rabbit food, but nothing tempts the picky pup. Frustrated, Kang Han decides to ignore and makes himself a big breakfast, hoping that maybe, just maybe, there might be something he can actually taste. Just as he's about to dig in, White Rice jumps onto the table and begins devouring the food. Kang Han tries to pull him away, but he notices something curious. White Rice only eats the dishes that Kang Han prepared himself, ignoring all the processed items and even turning up his nose at the frozen steak from the convenience store. Intrigued, Kang Han realizes that White Rice might have gourmet tastes. To test his theory, he prepares 2 plates of steak with the same quality meat and cooking method. The only difference? One steak has a commercial sauce, and the other has his signature sauce that once won praise in an international cooking competition. Kang Han sets the plates in front of White Rice, saying, "If you really are a gourmet, you'll know which one to choose." The pup sniffs the commercial sauce, steak first, but when he reaches the second steak with the original sauce, he wags his tail with enthusiasm, confirming Kang Han's suspicions. Delighted, Kang Han realizes he's found his furry food critic and gourmet companion. For the first time in a long while, he feels a spark of excitement in his cooking. Later, Kang Han begins painting his restaurant, but the paint appears uneven. An old man, stylish and funky, approaches him and laughs at his attempt, noting that Kang Han is using indoor paint for outdoor walls. The old man removes his hat, revealing himself as the village head, and jokingly criticizes Kang Han's skills, saying it looks like a raccoon painted the wall with a monkey's tail. Noticing White Rice, he tries to pet him, but the pup skillfully dodges. The old man insists that Kang Han should let a professional help him, suggesting he free up his weekend so he can bring in a local painter. That weekend, the village chief arrives with a man named Minho to help with the painting. As they work, Minho asks if Kang Han is planning to open a restaurant, to which Kang Han confirms, saying it will be a Western restaurant. Minho's ears perk up, and he nervously asks if he'll be serving pork cutlets, explaining that his pregnant wife has cravings but their usual restaurant is closed. Kang Han considers the request. Although pork cutlets aren't on his planned menu, he realizes he could try making them. However, he faces a challenge. Since he's lost his sense of taste, he doesn't know if the dish will turn out right. Just then, he notices White Rice watching him, and an idea strikes. He could use White Rice as his taste tester. With renewed determination, Kang Han asks Minho to describe his wife's favorite pork cutlets. Using this description, he prepares his first batch. White Rice's tail wags, but not with the intensity Kang Han hoped for, signaling that the taste isn't quite there. Kang Han becomes obsessed with perfecting the dish, preparing batch after batch and closely observing White Rice's tail for feedback. Finally, after several attempts, he achieves the right balance, his taste tester confirming the success with an enthusiastic wag. Kang Han has rediscovered his passion for cooking, not only for himself, but with a newfound sense of purpose and joy in sharing it with others. White Rice is satisfied and full, and Kang Han feels a renewed passion for cooking now that he has his taste meter. The next day, Minho arrives with his wife, who's excited to eat at a new restaurant after a long time without her favorite pork cutlets. Kang Han presents them with his special pork cutlets, and Minho's wife is immediately impressed by their appearance and aroma. She takes a bite while both Minho and Kang Han watch eagerly. She smiles, saying, "The countryside pork cutlet was good, but this is amazing." She loves the sauce's flavor and finds the meat much crispier and juicier. She reminisces about their first date, where they ate pork cutlets together. She recalls how Minho kept looking at her the entire time, causing him to blush as she explains that the dish reminds her of that cherished memory. Kang Han is happy to see his customers so satisfied, and he looks down to see that he may have fed White Rice a bit too much. Complimenting him on his work as an excellent taste tester, White Rice responds with a joyful woof. Later, Kang Han rethinks his restaurant concept. Instead of sticking to an Italian theme, he decides to create a flexible, Western-inspired menu based on what his customers truly want. While such customized menus are usually a feature of high-end establishments, Kang Han considers how he can bring this idea to his more modest restaurant. However, his thoughts soon turn back to White Rice, who seems downcast. Kang Han wonders if the pup misses the forest where he came from. Seeing White Rice's ears perk up at the mention of the forest, Kang Han realizes he might need to return him to his original home, even if it makes him a bit lonely. Remembering the strange creatures, the Pokemon-like squirrel and the muscular rabbit, he shivers at the thought of re-entering that bizarre forest. Still, White Rice gives him an innocent look, and Kang Han reluctantly agrees to return. Soon he finds himself back in the mysterious forest, hoping nothing dangerous lies in wait. As they wander, he hears the sound of water and follows it to a beautiful, pristine lake. Awestruck, he thinks that if this were his home, he'd feel homesick too. Deciding to give White Rice a proper send-off, Kang Han pulls out a portable grill from his backpack. He melts some butter, sears a premium steak cut, and sprinkles salt and pepper, making White Rice's tail wag furiously in excitement. Kang Han watches with amusement, joking that if White Rice wags any harder, he might take off like a helicopter. As he enjoys the view, he thinks the only thing missing is a cold beer, so he opens one and takes a sip, though he can't taste it. Suddenly, he feels the cold touch of a blade on his shoulder. A rough voice demands, "Who are you, stranger?" Kang Han turns to see a rugged man holding a sword to him, asking why he's wandering around in a forest filled with demonic beasts. Terrified, Kang Han stammers that he's just a chef and insists he's not up to anything suspicious. The man, eyeing him suspiciously, asks what a chef would be doing here. Desperate, Kang Han explains he was just admiring the view, which only seems to irritate the guard. A forest where demonic beasts roam is no place for sightseeing. The man growls, warning Kang Han to be honest or face severe consequences. At that moment, the guard notices White Rice eating with complete disregard for the danger, and something seems to click. The guard pulls back his sword and apologizes, explaining that he overreacted because this forest is a dangerous place, even for a seasoned warrior like him. In the depths of the forest, the knight sheaths his sword, introduces himself as Randolph, and explains he's a knight from the nearby territory. Kang Han introduces himself as well, still wondering why the knight's demeanor suddenly softened. Randolph explains that seeing a white wolf with him, a creature found only in folklore, proves he's not a bad person. Kang Han, confused, asks for more details, so Randolph tells him the legend. White wolves are said to carry the blood of the primordial wolf god, known for his eyes that could distinguish good from evil, and his immense wisdom. This lineage grants white wolves some of the wolf god's powers, so anyone accompanied by one must be of good character. Kang Han, now understanding White Rice's unusual hunger and agility, marvels at the pup's semi-divine nature. Randolph then glances at the premium steak Kang Han has cooked and remarks that food in a beautiful place like this must be special. Curious, he asks Kang Han, what kind of meat it is. Kang Han replies it's beef and offers him a piece. Though Randolph initially claims he's already eaten, he quickly jokes, "Psych. I haven't had a bite all day." Drawn in by the aroma, he eagerly accepts one taste of the juicy steak and Randolph is blown away, savoring the flavor. He notices the beer can in Kang Han's hand and asks what it is. Surprised to learn it's alcohol, he expresses interest. Kang Han offers him some, and Randolph playfully insists he doesn't need it, while grabbing the can from Kang Han's hand. Kang Han, amused, gives him a fresh can. After a sip, Randolph is amazed at the beer's refreshing taste, unlike anything he's ever had. Feeling grateful, Randolph thanks Kang Han and promises to repay him. He tells him that if he ever visits the nearby town, he can ask for Knight Captain Randolph and anyone will direct him. Kang Han, unsure of the knight's rank, stays silent, which Randolph interprets as further proof of his extraordinary nature. Randolph assures Kang Han that as long as he's with the White Wolf, he'll be safe from any creature in the forest. He then returns to his patrol, promising they'll meet again. As Randolph departs, Kang Han suddenly worries about the night drinking on duty. Realizing it's a silly concern, especially with a demigod wolf pup demanding attention, he laughs it off and gives White Rice the remaining food. Feeling bittersweet about leaving White Rice in the forest, he tells the pup goodbye, unsure if they'll meet again. He walks away, glancing back to see if White Rice will show any affection. Disappointed when he doesn't see the pup, he sighs, thinking White Rice has no attachment to him. However, as he starts to leave, Kang Han feels his backpack become heavier. White Rice has latched onto it. Surprised, he tries to shake him off, but White Rice clings on, even tearing his bag in the process. Why the pup wants to come back with him when he could stay in his forest home, White Rice licks his hand in response, and Kang Han realizes the pup wants to be with him. Happily, he scoops White Rice up and decides to bring him back to the village. As they return, Kang Han sees a crowd gathering in front of his shop, and he wonders what's going on. The village chief approaches him, cheerfully announcing that they're throwing a welcome party in his honor. Though Kang Han tries to excuse himself, not wanting to join, the chief insists, saying the celebration is for him. As villagers cheer and a large banner unfurls to officially welcome him, Kang Han realizes he's found a new home, complete with White Rice by his side and a warm community eager to include him. Kang Han arrives at the village party, only to find that everyone is having a great time, except him. All he wants is to go home, but the villagers are too excited. Only Mino, his wife, and a few sensible folks seem calm amidst the festivities, while the old-timers seem thrilled to have an excuse to drink all day. Kang Han asks Mino's wife if the villagers always throw parties like this for newcomers. She laughs, explaining that in a small village like theirs, they try to stay close. Still, it's obvious to Kang Han that the elders just need an excuse for a celebration. The village chief approaches him, explaining that in their village, it's common to share happiness with everyone as a sign of care and unity. The chief slyly suggests that Kang Han should use the event to promote his restaurant, but Kang Han suspects the chief might just be excited about the free-flowing drinks, especially when he notices the old man wearing bottle caps as decorations. Laughing to himself, Kang Han thinks promoting the restaurant isn't a bad idea, and he starts to feel that this kind of gathering isn't so bad after all. Meanwhile, he realizes White Rice is missing. Spotting him, Kang Han sees the wolf pup surrounded by villagers who are fawning over how adorable he is. White Rice is happily munching on all the food they offer, expertly dodging any attempt to pet him. Suddenly, with lightning speed, he weaves through the crowd, stealthily snatching the best cuts of meat, leaving people bewildered. Kang Han pretends not to know the pup, thinking maybe he should have left him back in the forest. As Kang Han is scanning the crowd, he notices a young boy sitting alone in a corner. Soon, the boy's grandmother comes over with food, but the boy angrily swats it away. Kang Han frowns at this behavior, but he hears the boy muttering about wanting a real hamburger before running off. The village chief notices too and approaches the elderly woman. To ask what's wrong, she explains that her grandson, Sangu, has been upset since his friend at school bragged about having a hamburger. She tried to get him a convenience store burger, but it didn't satisfy him. One villager volunteers to buy a burger from the nearest town, but someone else points out that Sangu likely wants a Big Mac, which isn't available locally. The village chief reassures everyone, saying they don't need to buy one because they have a chef from Seoul right here. He points to Kang Han, much to Kang Han's exasperation. Reluctantly, Kang Han agrees, but the chief adds that it doesn't even need to taste like a Big Mac. He explains that Sangu probably isn't craving the hamburger itself. He's jealous of his friend, who went out to eat with his parents. The village chief goes on to tell Kang Han that Sangu's mother is hospitalized, and his father works abroad, so he lives with his grandmother. As the village's only child, Sangu is precious to everyone, and they try to support him however they can. Kang Han gains some newfound respect for the chief, who seems to know everyone's personal struggles. However, this respect fades a bit when he notices the chief has several empty bottles tied to his belt. Kang Han realizes he can make a hamburger with ease, given that he studied in America. Although he never tried a Big Mac himself, he's confident he can create something special for Sangu, perhaps even better than what the boy is expecting. However, Kang Han feels that he must do at least this much for the villagers, especially since his pet White Rice has been eating all their meat. White Rice, nervous upon hearing this, tries to act cute to win Kang Han's favor. But Kang Han tells him to shut up, saying there will be no more food for him. White Rice feels upset, but then perks up when Kang Han mentions he needs him to taste something. Kang Han attempts to create a hamburger just by looking at a picture, but the taste meter is not wagging fast enough. This sparks a memory for Kang Han, how he had traveled to America driven by his love for cooking. He never put as much passion into anything else as he did into cooking. Now he wonders what his past self would think if he saw him like this, settling for a poor imitation just to satisfy a child. He's unhappy with the village chief's words that it doesn't need to taste the same. Tying his apron and putting on his headgear, he resolves, I have never cooked half-heartedly before, and I won't start now. The next day, as Kang Han is busy working his magic in the kitchen, Sang-gu is waiting in his restaurant. His grandmother, along with Mino and his wife, try to hype up the boy by saying that Kang Han can cook anything, but Sang-gu is not entirely convinced. Suddenly, Kang Han arrives with a hamburger, and everyone is amazed by how good it looks. Sang-gu takes a bite and immediately feels the taste of freedom in his mouth. Excited, he turns to his grandmother to tell her how delicious the burger is. The old lady smiles, happy that her grandson is finally enjoying himself. But Sang-gu's expression suddenly changes as guilt sweeps over him. With tears in his eyes, he admits that he only demanded a good burger because he wanted an excuse for his grandmother to take him to Seoul, hoping to see his mother there. He begins to cry, apologizing for being rude. His grandmother gently holds his face, hugging him, and apologizing for not realizing how much he was suffering alone. Sang-gu reassures her that he's okay living with her, and they both apologize to each other. Kang Han, witnessing this emotional moment, unexpectedly announces, I'm going to Seoul soon. Do you want to come with me? Everyone is shocked, but Kang Han tells Sang-gu they can visit the place he wants to see and have a burger together. Sang-gu's eyes light up as he agrees eagerly. His grandmother thanks Kang Han, and only then does he realize he might have gotten a little carried away. However, seeing the smiles of Sang-gu and his grandmother, he thinks, it won't be too much trouble anyway. Later, Kang Han looks at his fridge and wonders if he should take some leftovers and go camping. White Rice ears perk up upon hearing camping, and he approaches Kang Han. Despite Kang Han's reluctance, he ends up taking his pet to the otherworldly forests. Gloomily, he sits on a chair while White Rice barks, runs around excitedly. Realizing there's no point in being upset, Kang Han decides to make the best of it and sets up camp since the view is beautiful. Setting up the tent proves harder than assembling IKEA furniture without instructions, while White Rice chases butterflies around him. Finally, Kang Han succeeds in pitching the tent and realizes he's hungry. He starts preparing some spicy kimchi stew, but he still can't quite taste anything. Suddenly, two cute squirrel-like creatures approach him eagerly. Deciding to feed them, Kang Han tosses a few pieces of lightly cooked meat towards them, but a giant bird swoops in and steals the food. Fortunately, he still has enough left to satisfy the squirrels. As Kang Han relaxes, satisfied by just being in nature, he thinks, this must be the healing touch of nature. But then he wonders where White Rice went, assuming he will return by dinner time. However, there's something lurking in the bushes, drooling over Kang. Hearing the rustling leaves, he assumes White Rice is back, but instead, something else lunges for the bowl in his hands. Kang Han, with reflexes like an F1 driver, pulls the bowl away just in time. On high alert, he realizes the intruder is a young, feral beast girl. Noticing her cat-like ears and tail, Kang Han is confused, wondering if she's one of those beast people from fantasy stories. His main concern is that the cat girl is ferocious. She growls and leaps at him, but Kang Han's swift reactions aren't a fluke, and he manages to dodge her attack again. Yet, the girl isn't ready to give up. As he wonders where White Rice is when he really needs him, Kang Han tries to resolve the situation peacefully. Realizing that the cat girl might be hungry, he shows her the bowl of food. Her aggression suddenly fades. Kang Han places the bowl on the ground and tells her, "You can have this, but then you need to leave peacefully." The girl eyes the food, cautiously, clearly not trusting him. However, the enticing look and smell of the food captivate the cat girl, and she starts drooling. She takes a bite directly with her mouth, and suddenly, an explosion of chili ravages her taste buds. She falls to the ground, screaming, realizing the kimchi stew might be too spicy for her. Kang Han quickly offers her some water. However, the cat girl calms down on her own, and as the spiciness subsides, the delicious flavors of the meat and vegetables begin to shine through. She gets up and eagerly resumes eating the stew. Kang Han watches, relieved that it seems to suit her taste after all. Just then, White Rice returns in time for his meal, prompting Kang Han to complain that he could have shown up a little earlier. Kang Han goes to reheat the stew for him, but White Rice notices the cat girl devouring the food meant for him. Unable to tolerate this, he angrily tackles the girl. Kang Han tries to intervene, warning him not to provoke her, but White Rice, blinded by rage, continues the fight. He seems to have the upper hand, and the cat girl begins to cry after he crushes her nose. She tries to pounce on him again, forcing Kang Han to pull White Rice away. Just as the chaos peaks, the situation is instantly diffused as a calm and composed Catman arrives at the scene. With impressive agility, he grabs the cat girl mid-leap. The Catman apologizes to Kang Han, and with great speed, leaps away from the campsite with the girl in tow. Kang Han can only watch in bewilderment, now sporting White Rice paw print on his face. He wonders just how many different races live in this mystical forest. After this incident, Kang Han returns to the village, determined to focus on his restaurant. The grand opening is tomorrow, so he and White Rice spend the rest of the day cleaning and preparing. As he finishes the last touches, Kang Han feels optimistic about a flawless opening. Meanwhile, an old lady passing by notices the welcome banner outside the restaurant. Inside, Kang Han cross-checks his preparations, ensuring that everything is in order. Just as he finishes, the old woman walks in and asks if they are open. Kang Han explains that they'll officially open tomorrow, but not wanting to disappoint her, he sighs and invites her to have a seat. The woman looks around and comments on the old furniture, asking why he's still using it instead of throwing it away. She remarks that the place feels the same as it used to be. Kang Han asks if she visited when it was a tea house run by his grandfather, but she doesn't respond directly. Instead, she asks what kind of food he'll be serving. Kang Han tells her he plans to sell Western dishes like pizza and pasta. The old lady, with a puzzled look, remarks that pasta is just American noodles, which might trigger a few Italians if they heard that. The old woman then asks Kang Han to prepare some pasta for her and leaves the details to him. Deciding to keep it simple since it's her first time trying pasta, Kang Han prepares a classic tomato sauce pasta. He cooks it perfectly, putting extra care into the dish since she is his very first customer. Presenting the steaming plate to her, Kang Han watches anxiously, knowing that while he can no longer taste his own food, he's received many compliments on his pasta in the past. The woman takes a bite, her expression darkening immediately. She then asks him how much it costs, leaving Kang Han baffled. Just as he's trying to figure out what went wrong, the village chief enters the shop to check on him. He is surprised to see the old woman, whom he addresses as Grandma Parkee. The village chief asks why she's here, and she replies that she came to eat since it's a restaurant. He reminds her that the opening is tomorrow, but she simply says she's leaving now that she's done eating. The old man grumbles that she's as cold as ever, then notices the half-eaten plate of pasta. He's confused as to why she left so much behind, and Kang Han is equally perplexed. His confidence takes a hit as he questions what could have possibly gone wrong with the dish. Kang Han reflects on his past. Due to the intense stress of losing his sense of taste, his doctor had suggested taking a break and picking up a hobby. That's why Kang Han decided to move to his late grandfather's village and open a restaurant where his grandpa once ran a tea house. He also planned to do some light camping to help himself heal. However, on the very first day in his new life, he discovered a dimensional gate hidden in his grandfather's old storehouse. Without any way to return, he found himself trapped in another world, filled with mysterious creatures. With limited supplies, Kang Han tried cooking something, only to throw the pan away in frustration when he still couldn't taste the food. It was then that he spotted a wolf lurking in the bushes. Terrified, Kang Han thought the wolf would attack him, but it turned out to be a tiny, kiwi-sized wolf pup that eagerly devoured the food. Kang Han initially thought the creature he found was just a dog, so he petted him. However, when he realized it was actually a wolf, he nearly gave up on hope. But to his surprise, the wolf pup dragged him back to the portal and even pushed him through it. Kang Han was relieved to finally return home, but soon discovered that the wolf pup had followed him. He took the pup home, named him White Rice, and began using him as his personal taste tester, since the little wolf would only eat homemade food. In the meantime, Kang Han met the village chief, who was well acquainted with everyone's circumstances. He also met Minho, who helped him paint his shop, and Minho's wife, to whom he later prepared pork cutlets as a thank you. The villagers eventually threw a welcome party for him, where he met a young boy named Sangu, who was throwing a tantrum because he wanted to eat a Big Mac. The village chief convinced Kang Han to take up the challenge of preparing one for the boy. After eating it, Sangu confessed that he didn't really want a burger. He just wanted an excuse to go to Seoul to visit his mother, who was hospitalized. He apologized to his grandmother for being rude, and Kang Han promised to take him to Seoul the next time he went. Later, Kang Han went camping in the other world, tempted by his pet wolf. During this adventure, he met a night captain named Randolph, a hungry feral cat girl, and her father. Time flew by, and soon there was only one day left until the opening of his restaurant. On that day, an old lady entered the shop. Kang Han welcomed her and offered her a seat. She requested some pasta, so he prepared a simple tomato pasta, thinking it was her first time trying it. However, after taking just one bite, the old lady left the rest untouched and walked out. Kang Han was shocked and deeply affected by her reaction. Just as she left, the village chief entered the store and noticed Kang Han in a slump. He asked if there was something wrong with the restaurant preparations. Kang Han coldly replied that it didn't matter anymore because he was planning to shut down the restaurant before it even opened. This shocked the village chief, who then noticed that Kang Han was upset because the old lady, Grandma Park, had barely touched her meal. The village chief tried to cheer him up, telling him that not everyone can be satisfied, even if he were a master chef. This only made Kang Han more frustrated, since he had indeed won an international cooking competition in the past. The chief tried to reassure him, suggesting that perhaps Grandma Park wasn't there for the food, but rather for nostalgia. He explained that someone close to her, her late husband, used to visit the old tea shop that Kang Han's grandfather used to run. After her husband passed away last year, Grandma Park became more reclusive, rarely interacting with the villagers. The chief believed that she might still be mourning her husband. Kang Han felt a mix of sympathy and frustration after hearing this. The chief advised him not to dwell on it too much, as Grandma Park was notoriously picky about food, especially given her current emotional state. Despite the chief's attempt to console him, Kang Han couldn't shake off the thoughts. Feeling overwhelmed, he decided to head out to the other world to clear his mind. As he camped in the other world, he noticed the buff rabbit doing push-ups with White Rice perched on top of it. Kang Han thought to himself that with these two around, no monsters would dare approach, giving him time to sort through his thoughts. He was still stunned that the old lady had left his dish nearly untouched, yet he also felt sorry for her after learning her story. While lost in thought, Kang Han was interrupted by a familiar scream. It was the cat girl from before, and she seemed to be hungry again. Kang Han sighed and began rummaging through his bag for food. White Rice approached him just as the cat girl descended from a nearby tree. Deciding to cook something different, Kang Han opted to prepare a juicy steak. However, as he was about to add hot sauce, he remembered how badly the cat girl had handled the spice last time. Seeing her flinch at the sight of the sauce bottle, he decided to skip it this time. Instead, he melted some butter in a pan, roasted mushrooms with a bit of pepper and salt, then added some cream for thickness and cheese for flavor. Finally, he mixed in freshly cooked pasta. To finish, he placed the perfectly cooked steak on top. The dish was now complete, his special cream steak pasta. Kang Han offered a plate to the cat girl, who eagerly accepted it. As Kang Han presents the dish to the cat girl, she growls at him. He simply tells her, "You can growl at me later, but right now, you'd better eat it before someone else steals it." Still a bit wary of the spiciness from the last dish, she hesitates. But eventually, she takes a bite. Immediately, her eyes widen as she feels like she's been transported to another dimension, where angelic cats are preparing the meat and cream just for her. She purrs in delight, devouring the creamy pasta and savoring each bite. Seeing her enthusiasm, Kang Han notices her looking at him with eager eyes, clearly signaling that she enjoyed the dish without the spicy kick this time. Even though she's unable to express herself in words, he's satisfied to see her happy reaction. In contrast, Kang Han personally finds the cream steak pasta too greasy and heavy for his taste. He thinks it's more of a shabby fusion dish than authentic pasta. But seeing how much the cat girl loves it, he ruffles her hair, thinking, it doesn't matter if it's authentic, as long as it suits her taste. Suddenly, Kang Han has an epiphany and rushes back to his shop. He begins experimenting with new ingredients, washing fresh spring onions at the sink while calling for white rice to help him find the best batch. White rice, however, simply stares at him as if to say, "I'm a wolf, not a donkey who eats grass," before turning away. Kang Han laughs it off but remains confident that he can handle it alone, since he's memorized the flavors of all the ingredients. Outside his restaurant, there's a sign that reads, "Opening next week due to personal reasons." Meanwhile, the village chief, noticing the sign, gets an idea of what's on Kang Han's mind. He visits Grandma Park's house, greeting her cheerfully and suggesting that she should go out more, since there are plenty of fun things to do beyond her home. She rudely asks why he's suddenly at her doorstep. The chief laughs, explaining that he came to check on a neighbor. The chief mentions that young Chef Kang Han was quite distressed after Grandma Park left his pasta untouched. She shrugs, saying the dish simply didn't suit her taste, and sees no reason for the fuss. The chief agrees but tries to persuade her to visit the restaurant again, assuring her that this time, things might be different. He coaxes her by reminding her how close the shop is and asks her to give the young chef another chance. Though reluctant, Grandma Park agrees to consider it. Back at the restaurant, Kang Han finishes refining his new recipe. He's added fresh vegetables and seafood to create a harmonious balance with local flavors. However, he faces a new challenge: how to invite Grandma Park back to taste this new dish. Just as he's pondering this, the doorbell rings. To his surprise, it's Grandma Park once again. Kang Han is both relieved and surprised to see her. She bluntly asks, "Are you open now?" He welcomes her warmly and seats her. As she sits down, she wonders if he's going to serve her those American noodles again, much to the chagrin of any Italians listening in spirit. Grandma Park doesn't have much fondness for Western dishes and internally regrets coming back. But suddenly, she's intrigued by a delightful aroma wafting from the kitchen. Kang Han places a plate of pasta in front of her, thanking her for waiting. He explains that this dish is a new item from his special menu. The old lady looks at it curiously, noticing the clams and fresh vegetables. She wonders if this pasta will taste better than the one before. As soon as she takes a bite, the taste of spring onions hits her, and she's overwhelmed with nostalgia. The flavors transport her back to the last spring she spent with her late husband under the cherry blossom trees. She vividly remembers him playfully picking a few blossoms, flirting with her, calling her "young miss," and asking if she was free for a cup of coffee. Grandma Park had brushed it off back then, jokingly asking if he had gone senile. As the memories flood back, she gazes out of the window, momentarily seeing cherry blossoms fluttering in the air. For a brief moment, it feels like spring has returned. Tearing up, she turns to Kang Han and asks, "This dish wasn't on the menu before, was it?" He confirms that it's a new addition, made especially for her. "But why go to all this trouble?" she demands, slightly confused. Kang Han simply replies, "I wanted to make something that you would truly enjoy," he adds with a smile. I also wanted to try something new and improve. Grandma Park is deeply moved by his words. Kang Han feels a sense of accomplishment, realizing that he doesn't need to rely on white rice forever to tell him if a dish is good. He can trust his instincts and, more importantly, the joy his food brings to others. Kang Han watches in awe as Grandma Park begins eating the pasta in silence. He can only stare, anxiously waiting to see her reaction. To his delight, she finishes everything on her plate. As she wipes her mouth, she casually asks him, "How much do I owe you?" Caught off guard. Kang Han nervously responds, "It's fine. You don't need to pay me anything." Grandma Park sighs in frustration, retorting, "What kind of restaurant owner doesn't charge his customers?" She insists that, since she enjoyed the meal, it's only fair to pay for it. She then advises him to never undervalue the food he makes. Moved by her words, Kang Han feels a surge of pride and gratitude when she tells him to add this dish to his menu because she plans to come by again. Kang Hayek is left speechless, thrilled that he has finally won over his first customer. With the success of his first day, he decides to take a break in the other world to relax. He sets up a hammock for himself and a comfy bed for white rice. As he stretches out to enjoy his free time, he thinks about how satisfying it is to have opened his restaurant successfully. He convinces himself that he's only here because white rice throws a fit if they don't visit regularly, but deep down, he knows he's just as eager for the escape. However, his peaceful retreat doesn't last long. Suddenly, a huge gray shape flies overhead, causing Kang Han to sit up in confusion. Before he can process what's happening, the night captain, Randolph, arrives at his campsite. The area is a mess, and Kang Hayek, now sprawled on the ground, looks up in disbelief. "Ah, it's been a while." Randolph greets him cheerfully, completely oblivious to the chaos he's caused. Kang Han is furious and wonders if Randolph's eyes are just for decoration, since he doesn't seem to notice the damage. As he gets up, dusting himself off, he asks Randolph if he's on patrol again. Randolph, grinning, says today's his day off and that he just came by to hunt a bit. The word hunt immediately piques White Rice's interest, and Randolph gets even more excited. He invites them to join him, promising to treat them to a meal afterward. White Rice is all in, wagging his tail eagerly. But Kang Han is less enthusiastic. Before he knows it, he's holding a bow with a quiver of arrows strapped to his back, his plans for a peaceful day ruined. They sneak through the bushes, and Randolph points out their target, the elusive jumping birds of this area. Kang Han is curious and peers ahead, only to realize that the so-called jumping birds are just ostriches, but with vibrant flamingo pink feathers. Their fur looks so soft and fluffy that Kang Hayek feels a pang of guilt at the thought of hunting such cute creatures. Sensing Kang Han's hesitation, Randolph chuckles and explains, "Don't be fooled by their appearance. The pink fluff isn't really their fur. It's just a disguise." Just then, too, birds get into a fierce fight, and to Kang Hayek's shock, they reveal their true forms. Muscular giants with the strength of the bird kingdoms, gigachads. The pink fluff was merely a cover for their densely packed muscles. Kang Hayek is horrified. "You seriously want me to hunt those monsters?" he thinks, but Randolph and White Rice are already charging ahead. They call back to him for support from the rear. Despite his reluctance, Kang Hayek decides to give it a shot. Randolph quickly teaches him the basics of archery, but Kang Hayek is no Olympic-level archer. He's just a chef, after all. Nonetheless, he tries to calm his nerves, pulls the bowstring, and releases an arrow. It flies toward the birds but ends up missing them entirely, nearly hitting White Rice instead. White Rice and Randolph both give him incredulous stares. "Sorry, my bad," Kang Han shouts, mortified by his blunder. As the sun sets, Randolph is roasting chunks of bird meat over a fire. He hands a piece to Kang Hayek, who hesitantly takes a bite. The meat has a foul stench, and Kang Hayek can barely stomach it. But Randolph mistakes his stunned expression for awe, proudly declaring that he'll cook even more. Panicking, Kang Hayek insists, No, let me cook this time." But as he starts, he freezes up. He's never dealt with the bizarre flavors of this world's creatures. "Can I really cook something whose taste I don't understand?" he wonders. However, he quickly shakes off his doubts. Just earlier, he successfully created a dish that won over Grandma Park. That thought boosts his confidence. Determined, Kang Han throws off his cloak and sets to work. Kang Han reminds Randolph that he is a chef and asks him to let him make something with the bird meat. Kang Han first removes the blood from the meat so that the bad smell vanishes. However, draining the blood is a slow process and will take at least half a day to clean a chunk this size. The meat is not completely clean, but he has to work with what he has. To remove the foul odor, Kang Han pours some dark beer on the meat. Randolph instantly sneaks behind him and asks if he is pouring beer into the bucket, demanding an explanation for wasting such a precious thing. But Kang Han is not having it. He tells the night captain to create a frame on which he can hang the pot, and Randolph obeys silently. Kang Han then remarks that it would be nice if they had some laurel leaves or herbs. He fills up the pot, saying, "I'm going to make a broth with equal parts beer and water." In the meantime, he adds onions, pepper, salt, and sugar. He leaves the mixture to cook for about an hour, and when it's done, he asks Randolph to help him take it down. Kang Han then removes the lid of the pot, and the aroma of the cooked meat stew is so delicious that even white rice returns. Randolph asks if it's done, but Kang Han replies that they still have to roast it one more time. Normally, he would have used an oven, but since they are camping, he'll use an open fire instead. Once the meat is well roasted, Kang Han cuts it into smaller chunks to complete the dish. As Randolph holds the plate with the finished dish, he wonders if this wonderful scent is really coming from jumping bird meat. Randolph knows that even the best chefs in the territory have given up on making this meat taste good. He can't believe that Kang Han managed the impossible. As he takes a bite, he feels as if lightning is coursing through his body. He wonders what kind of heavenly taste this is and begins devouring the meat. The outside is as crispy as a cookie, while the inside is juicy and tender. Randolph feels like he's in heaven and wonders if this is truly the meat of the jumping birds he's eaten hundreds of times before. However, he feels that something is missing from the dish to make it perfectly balanced. He has a eureka moment and immediately asks Kang Han to give him some beer because it will fit perfectly with the dish. Kang Han tells him to grab one himself, so Randolph does. As he relishes the taste of the beer and takes another bite of the meat, he's proud of his own intuition. He remarks that this is the perfect dish to accompany alcohol. He praises Kang Han, saying he'd never get tired of this dish, even if he ate it for the rest of his life. However, Kang Han is not entirely thrilled because he believes he could have gotten rid of all the foul smell if he had more time. He turns to White Rice to ask for his opinion, and the wolf pup wags his tail excitedly, indicating he liked it. While the pup asks for more, Kang Han is still contemplating how he could have improved the dish, leaving Randolph dumbfounded. Randolph now believes that Kang Han's skill level must be higher than that of the imperial chef if he is unsatisfied with a meal as delicious as the one he just prepared. Later, a mildly drunk Randolph says that he wanted to treat Kang Han to a meal this time, but he ended up getting treated by him again. He wonders how such cooking techniques exist in the world. Kang Han is glad that Randolph liked it, and Randolph says that after this, he can never eat regular jumping bird meat again. He asks Kang Han if it would be all right to copy his cooking technique, to which Kang Han replies that it's fine because it's nothing special. However, Randolph cuts him off mid-sentence, saying that, as someone acquainted with food and chefs, he knows the value of Kang Han's skills. He tells Kang Han that his dishes are brilliant and advises him not to undervalue himself. Kang Han is happy to hear this and thanks the night captain. Randolph then decides to repay Kang Han for all the amazing and precious things he has shown him. His idea of repayment is to teach Kang Han swordsmanship. Kang Han is dumbfounded by this suggestion. Once, Randolph was a reputed knight in the capital, and he believes that his swordsmanship lessons would be a valuable reward for Kang Han. However, Kang Han tries to explain that he's just a chef. Randolph suddenly bursts into laughter, declaring that countless people come to him, begging to be taught swordsmanship. Kang Han retorts, suggesting he should teach those people then, but Randolph simply says that he doesn't like them. Instead, he tells Kang Han to be ready with a beer and a meat dish for him the next time they meet, promising to teach him swordsmanship then. Although Kang Han isn't interested in learning swordsmanship, he realizes that Randolph might feel uncomfortable accepting free meals all the time. Kang Han decides to accept the offer, reasoning that he can treat the training as a workout. If he gains strength from it, he'll be able to handle heavy utensils more effectively as well. Soon, the night sky is covered by the northern lights, and as Kang Han admires them, he has no idea what consequences accepting Randolph's offer might bring. Back in the village, it has been a week since Kang Han's ex-restaurant opened. For the first few days, many villagers visited, but now the flow of customers has completely dried up. Kang Han spends his days watching birds from his window, feeling a bit down despite knowing this would happen. Meanwhile, White Rice watches TV to cure his boredom. The TV was a sort of gift from a customer who left it behind, saying he no longer needed it. Kang Han decides to see what White Rice is watching and finds that it's an interview with an idol group. Kang Han reads the name, Eunice, and thinks it's good that White Rice is watching something. He feels heard that name somewhere before. Coincidentally, Kang Han's friend, who helped him settle in the village, is busy with his job, managing the same idol group, Eunice. Jim, the manager, asks the girls if they are comfortable working. In this rural location, the girls complain about how the sun is too bright and there are huge grasshoppers everywhere. Exhausted, Jim doesn't even hear their complaints and simply praises them for doing a good job. Jim prefers working quietly in his office, but managing a group of girls makes that nearly impossible. He checks his schedule and sees that there's nothing else planned for today since their interview shoot is over. With some free time on his hands and being close to Kang Han's village, he decides to visit him. Jim calls Kang Han and asks if he's still alive, saying that since the shoot just ended and he's nearby, he'll drop by for some food. Kang Han seems reluctant, but Jim insists, pointing out that Kang Han doesn't have any customers and that he doesn't plan to eat anywhere else when he has a chef friend nearby. Hearing this, the girls start gossiping about the food and the chef. While Jim's plan is set, the girls hatch a secret plan of their own. Jim leaves them in the care of his assistant, telling them to behave. The girls act innocent, asking him when they've ever been anything but nice. Jim, knowing better, chooses not to argue, gets into his car, and tells them he'll see them tomorrow. As soon as he leaves, the girls gang up on his assistant, pressuring him to follow his boss. The assistant hesitates, but ultimately, he's swayed by their charm. The blonde girl, who seems to be their leader, confidently declares, asking for forgiveness is easier than asking for permission. Meanwhile, Kang Han is mopping the floor, grumbling about how arrogant Jim is for dropping in so suddenly. He complains about what would have happened if he was busy, even though he knows he isn't busy at all. Deciding there's no use crying over it now, he starts preparing a meal while White Rice continues to watch TV. Suddenly, the door bursts open as a man enters. It's Jim, who is fuming at his assistant for getting caught tailing him. Seeing the tense atmosphere, Kang Han wonders what's going on. Jim quickly apologizes, explaining that a few unwanted guests tagged along. The unwanted guests cheerfully introduce themselves as Eunice. The girls immediately start fawning over White Rice, but he runs away from them. On the other hand, Kang Han is still in disbelief that his humble restaurant, located in the remotest part of the country, is being visited by idols. Jim then lectures the girls, scolding them for becoming too bold lately, and asking if they even consider the consequences of their actions. The girls can only apologize as they nervously face him. Furious, Jim orders them to leave immediately. Understanding the situation now, Kang Han glances over at Jim's assistant, who is crying in a corner. Feeling pity for the poor man, Kang Han suggests to Jim that since everyone is already here, it would be better for them to leave with their stomachs full. Jim hesitates, asking if it's really okay, as he can't believe Kang Han is accepting this unexpected situation. As the girls continue to chatter excitedly, Jim watches Kang Han from the corner of his eye. The Kang Hayek I knew would made a huge fuss over this situation, he thinks. But now, his old friend seems to have mellowed out significantly. In the meantime, Kang Han turns to the girls and asks, "Is there anything in particular you were craving?" Without hesitation, they enthusiastically request something spicy and oily. However, Jim's assistant quickly steps in, reminding them to be mindful of their diets, since they're still promoting their new show. Jim can't help but feel a bit nostalgic. I thought Hayek had lost his mind when he decided to leave the bustling city to heal in the countryside. Jim mooses. But as he watches Kang Han move around his restaurant, it's clear that the change has done him some good. His eyes then land on White Rice, who is lounging comfortably nearby. Is that dog always here? Jim wonders out loud, but Han is already on his way to the kitchen. Kang Han is determined to prepare something special that will satisfy his guests, who came all the way from the city. He opens his refrigerator to see what ingredients he has on hand. Spotting some ripe, juicy tomatoes, an idea sparks in his mind. He begins chopping, planning to create a light but flavorful meal. On one pan, he sears some tender meat, while on another, he fries garlic to infuse the air with its rich aroma. He grates some fresh cheese, aiming to create a dish that's not just delicious, but also nutritious. Soon the kitchen is filled with the mouth-watering scent of his cooking. Finally, Kang Han presents the dishes to the girls. Their eyes light up as they see the steaming plates of tomato pasta and steak salad. They immediately start snapping pictures, squealing with delight. The blonde girl takes a bite of the pasta, and her eyes widen in surprise. I don't usually eat pasta unless it's rose or cream, but this tomato sauce. It's incredible, she exclaims. The girl with bangs, on the other hand, is digging into the salad. These vegetables are so fresh, and the meat, perfectly tender, she marvels. Kang Han turns to Jim, who is still standing nearby, and explains, I made a lighter meal for them. Let them enjoy it in peace. Jim rolls his eyes but responds, I wasn't planning on saying anything while they were eating anyway. Across the table, the red-headed idol is wiping tears from her eyes. Why haven't I eaten anything this good before? She sobs dramatically. The purple-haired girl beside her is visibly frustrated, complaining, It's so good, it's making me angry. Her friends laugh, telling her to stop pouting and enjoy the feast, because they never know when they'll get another chance like this. Kang Han, however, shoots a suspicious side-eye at Jim. Are you starving these girls? He asks bluntly. Jim quickly shakes his head. Hey, it's easy to misunderstand, but I promise I'm not starving them. Kang Han then brings out a plate of light vongole pasta for Jim, explaining, Since you have to drive all the way back to Seoul, I made something that won't make you too sleepy. Jim is taken aback by this unexpected thoughtfulness. Kang Han, are you being considerate of me? He asks with a teasing grin. Suddenly, he grabs Kang Han's shoulder, narrowing his eyes suspiciously. Wait, are you acting this kind because you're dying or something? Han responds with a cold glare. Do I look terminally ill to you? As the evening winds down, the girls can't stop praising Kang Han's cooking. This food is on another level. We've never had anything like it, they gush. Kang Han smiles, a rare softness in his eyes. I'll cook something even better for you next time. He promises. The blonde leader grins, and, much to Kang Han's surprise, calls him by his name. We'll definitely be back, Kang Han. He flinches, realizing that he never introduced himself to them. As they pile into their van, the girls call out, Chef, your food tastes even better than it looks in your videos. We'll see you next time. Once they've left, Kang Han turns to Jim, still confused. How did they know my name? He asks. Jim smirks. They watch your cooking videos when they're hungry, so of course, they recognized you. Kang Han's eyes widen in shock. Those silly videos I uploaded. Are idols really watching them? As Jim prepares to leave, Kang Han gives him a pointed look. Next time you plan on dropping by, inform me in advance. Jim chuckles, will do. But before I go, how's your healing journey coming along? Kang Han's expression softens as he glances at the star-filled sky. It's going well, he replies with a small smile. Let's end this here. If you have watched till now, comment what your favorite food